Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video, I will show you how to use WorkManager with Jetpack Glance Android widget to update some data using coroutine workers in native Android application. So let's get started. So here, as you can see, my app is basic app. I don't have anything inside my app, but I have created one widget. So what I will do is that I will just long press on this app icon and it shows me the widgets option. I'll click on this particular widgets. Now this is the preview image for my widget. You can change it to whatever you feel like, and here I will just click on add, and here you can see that for now the display text is quote not found, but instead of quote not found I am actually, after some time, now this is, if you don't know what WorkManager is, it will basically do some work in the background even when your app is not open, but the OS will decide when to do this particular operation. We don't have really control on this. It could be I am giving a minimum type of like I have set it as 1 hour, but within the 1 hour I have set it as 15 minutes, so it can implement whenever it feels like. It might even take 5 hours or 10 hours, but typically it should get completed within 2 to 3 hours. So here you can see currently it is displaying quote not found, but at the end of the video I will again, with the help, with the magic of video editing, I'll wait for some time, 1 hour or 2 hours, and then I'll show you guys the output. Currently it is quote not found, but in the output I will show you whatever is the date, like when the WorkManager ran, and a topic is also empty, so there is nothing after after topic is, which you see over here, but that also we will be displaying some data, but instead of date you can display whatever data you want. Just for simplicity I'm displaying date. Okay, so let's get started. So I have created a native Android application. I'm using XML layout, but if you want you can use Jetpack Compose as well, so it's up to you what you want to do. Firstly I will just close all tabs. First we have to add those dependencies of a Jetpack Glance. So for creating widgets I'm not using XML code. We have to use a little bit of XML code, but that is mandatory. I'm using Jetpack Compose, like Jetpack Glance, for creating Android widgets, so you don't have to worry about it. So your main application can be in Jetpack Compose as well, doesn't really matter. So first, inside build.gradle.kts, I have added this dagger hilt Android dependency. Now to do dependency injection I'm using dagger hilt because I wanted to follow the right practices. So make sure you add first this particular dependency. Once you add this particular dependency you will have to go to build.gradle.kts, and here I have added this Kotlin cap dependency because dagger hilt still is not ready for KSP. That's why I have to use Kotlin capped. And here you also have to add this com.google.dagger-hilt Android. Then make sure your compile SDK, target SDK is at least 35. If there is higher version available in future, make sure you upgrade that. Then if I scroll down, if you have created your application using Jetpack Compose, you should already be seeing this inside this Android block which we have. So this one you should already be seeing this, but if you are like me creating an application using XML layout, you will have to add this. Now this particular version depends on Kotlin, what Kotlin version you are using. So this is very be very careful with this. If you are using some other version you might have to check the documentation. I would highly recommend at least use 1.5.15 like I am using. If there is higher version available in the future, make sure you upgrade to that as well. I'll show you my Kotlin version in a bit, but make sure you add this bit of code as well. Then just scroll down, and here we have to add, so for this first two dependencies are for Jetpack Glance. Now this warning from Android is not because I'm using old version, I'm using the latest version. It is just telling me use version catalog, but I'm not using version catalog, just for simplicity's sake. So here you can see I have added this glance app widget as well as glance material 3 dependency, and here I have added this work runtime KTX as well as his hilt work. So this is for WorkManager, as well as hilt work is for dependency injection for WorkManager. And this two dependency I have added dagger hilt Android as well as dagger hilt Android compiler. And then you also, given that we are using capped over here, we have to also add this correct error types over here. In case if you are using KSP in the future, you don't need all this. Then just you have to go to libs.versions.toml and make sure what Kotlin version you are using. At least use 1.9.25 if you are using 1.5.15 over here. So these versions are related to each other. And once you have updated that, just click on sync now, and it will download all the Android dependencies for you. Okay, once that is done, we will first have to go to android manifest.xml. We will have to scroll down. Before that, before I forget that, we have to create an application class for Dagger Hilt. So just create a Kotlin file called my application. Okay, I will tell you that later because this is a bit complicated. Sorry about that. So just go to android manifest.xml, and firstly you have to add this receiver called my app widget receiver. We will have to create a Kotlin file. I have already created that. Exported is true. Here we have to give intent filter of action app widget update, and here I have given some metadata as well. So the name is Android app widget provider, and the resource is XML my app widget info. Okay, so we also need to create this XML files. Now this my app, for this my app widget info, we have to create 3 separate files and 3 separate folders of XML, because the minimum HDK for me for this project is 24. Now some of the attributes of my app widget info are only available from HDK 28, and some of them are only available from HDK 31. That's why we have to create 3 different folders. So first we will do that. So first you can just copy paste this. I'll come back to this later on. This is related to WorkManager dependency injection. So yeah, you can just do this. Then what you can do is go to the project drop down, and don't create those XML folder from the Android drop down. It gets very confusing. So you can go to project drop down, go to app, src, main, go to res, and firstly this XML folder by default must be present for you. Inside that you have to create an XML file called my app widget info.xml. Then you have to create 2 separate folders, xml-v28 and xml-v31. So you can just right click directory and name it as xml-v28 and xml-v31. Okay, and then inside that you to create an XML file, just right click new XML resource file, give name as my app widget info. So here you can see I have also created that XML file, and here also I have created that XML file. Now again I'll just go back to the Android drop down just to show you guys the output. So inside Android drop down, here you can see it looks something like this. Again I'll just go to the project drop down only, otherwise again you guys might get confused. So inside this first XML drop down, you inside this my app widget info, you have to write this bit of code. So just copy paste this code. Now almost same code we will be using it inside my app widget info of v28 as well as v31 with some extra attributes. So first is the resize mode, then after how much time we want to update our widget. This is the mean height, this is the mean width, this is the mean resize height, mean resize width, and here I have given it some description. Now you can't hard code the description. You can't write something like my app name. It will throw an error when you try to run your application. So to give a description, you will have to write it inside values strings.xml, and here you can write some key value pair. I am just using the default one of our app name, but feel free to use whatever you feel like. Now this initial layout, when I created our widget, you saw that spinning indicator, right, for a second or two. That is this initial layout. This is by default present inside the Jetpack launch dependency, so we don't have to worry about it. And if you want to give a preview image, you will have to add it inside drawable. So inside drawable I just added this image. You can add whatever image you feel like. Okay, so yeah, that's it for my app widget info inside the XML folder. Now the second my app widget info.xml. So here again the same thing I have done. Okay, only thing which I have done extra is this widget features. Again, I'm not really sure what this does. I have just copy pasted it from the documentation. Okay, so yeah, only this thing which we have to add, rest everything remains the same. Next, for my app widget info.xml, again I have just copy pasted this from the documentation. Again everything remains the same. Only thing is I have added this widget feature. Then I have also added this max resize height, max resize width, target cell height as well as target cell width. Okay, rest everything is copied from the previous XML files which I have shown you. Okay, so this is done. Then I'll go to the Android drop down now. Next, we also have to create an error layout file. So in case the code which we have written for Jetpack glance, in case if we error out for some reason, one like good example of your Jetpack glance widget not rendering is if, in by case if you try to import a Jetpack compose import inside your Jetpack glance, this particular error is like very easy to make. Like in my case, it wouldn't happen because I'm not using any Jetpack compose dependency, right? I've only added Jetpack glance dependency because I'm using XML layout. But anyways, in case if you're confused, just ignore it. Here you will have to create a layout file called custom error layout. We will be using this inside our code, which I will show you shortly. So here you can see this is, I have kept it pretty simple. I'm using a linear layout and it has a text view inside it, displaying error, displaying text. And this, I give it some ID because with the help of this ID we can change the text of our text view as well if you want to programmatically, which also I will show you. So it's very important you give this ID as well. If you want an image view, or maybe if you want some funky looking error screen, you can do that as well, but don't complicate it too much. I would highly recommend just use image view as well as text views. Don't complicate too much. I think some even this XML thing does not support all widgets, which all XML properties or attributes which we use normally for native Android application. So be careful with that. Okay, once that is done, we will go to our firstly we'll have to create this my app widget receiver, which so I'll just close everything else. If you remember, inside our Android manifest.xml we require this my app widget receiver. So for that I have created this particular Kotlin file called my app widget receiver, which extends from glance app widget receiver. And here is our glance app widget, and we are just referencing another Kotlin file called my widget. So that's what I'm doing over here. So here I have created this Kotlin file called my widget. Now this is the entire bulk of code which I have written. So firstly, it's, I would highly recommend you copy my imports. So I'll simply scroll through this here. That's what I was talking about previously. In case if you have created a Jetpack compose project, it's highly likely you might impose a Jetpack compose import instead of this android.xglance.button. Similarly for all these imports as well, if you do that while rendering your widget, you will see our error layout. So in that, if that's the case, you should come back and see your imports. So again, I'll just simply scroll through this, all these imports which I'll just remove all these dead imports. Sorry. Okay, so these are all the imports which I have. Then here is our widget which extends from glance app widget, and here you can see I am updating two things: string preference key of key topic and string preference key of key code. Now this values will be updated from using WorkManager with the help of coroutine worker. By default they would be empty in case if the WorkManager has not ran yet. So here I have given it some size mode as well. Now here I'm using the string preference key. I have already made a video on glance state definition as well, which is similar to storing key value data. If you want, you can use that as well, or if you want to fetch data from network, you can do that as well, use inside your coroutine worker. So it's up to you. Then here you can see I'm overriding this provide glance method. Then this is the provide contents. Then I'm getting whatever is stored inside our key code key as well as key topic. If it is empty, then I'm just displaying code not found, and for this I'm just displaying an empty string. If you want, you can give it some proper data as well. Then here is our glance theme. Here is our scaffold. I have given it some title bar, so I'm just referencing this particular image which is present inside our map folder, given it some title. And here I have created one column as well, and here is our text. So here I have given some style to our text, and here inside the text I'm just displaying the display text as well as the topic, which are stored inside our string preferences key and which will be updated from our coroutine worker or set from our coroutine worker. And here I have given it some clickable action. This doesn't really work. I'm not really sure what's the issue. I think the issue is with Jetpack glance dependencies, but anyways, I don't want to go into that further. That's why I've created a button as well. On button, this particular thing works, like calling the main activity on the button click. So that's what I'm doing over here. Okay, and here then I'm just overriding this on composition error method as well. This will help us to update our text of our error layout screen if we want to. So here we just get hold of our remote views, and here you can see we are passing the custom error layout screen which we had created inside our layout folder. Then if I want to update the text, I can just get the id of our text view, and here I'm just assigning whatever text has been, whatever error we get. If you want, you can apply it some other way, and here we are just updating our widget. That's it. So this typically happens when you have the wrong import of Jetpack Compose instead of Jetpack Glance inside this particular file. So yeah, that's it for this particular file. Next, inside my main activity, yeah, before I go to our main activity, I need to show you our custom worker. So this again, now I am also not an expert in dependency injection, but I have managed to figure it out somehow. So these are first all the imports. Then given that this particular logic needs to run at certain amount of time, we are marking it as hilt worker. Then we are injecting our context dependency as well as work parameter dependencies. Okay, then we are overriding this do work method, and on a background thread, the operation is pretty simple. I'm getting the current time whenever this particular thing runs, then I'm converting it to a proper date, then I'm converting it to a simple date format, and then I'm formatting that date. Okay, now here instead of this particular logic, you can do whatever you feel like. You can take data from your room database, or if you want, you can call a network API or whatever logic you want to write. Okay, once you have the appropriate data, we just get hold of our glance widget by passing this. So this was the name of our widget, right? So my widget over here, so that's what I'm passing over here. So I'm getting the glance ID, then I'm looping over it, and then what I need to update, I need to update this preferences key quote as well as this preferences key topic. That's what I'm passing over here. That's it. So whatever data we have got over here as well as over here, I'm just assigning that variable, and then just updating our widget, and then returning success back. That's it. That's how simple it is. Only this part could be a little bit uh, like tedious to do in case of dependency injection, depending on what exactly you are trying to do. But yeah, that's what you have to do. Then you have to create this application class, which is kind of like an entry point. Again, I'll just remove all this unnecessary imports. Where is it? Optimize imports. So here you can see it is marked as hilt Android app, and then this is our application class which extends from application, and here we also extend from configuration dot provider as well. Okay, now ignore this commented out code. I was doing it a separate way previously, which didn't really work for me. Then here is our inject worker factory, hilt worker factory. Okay, so we are injecting our worker factory, and here I have created this worker configuration by lazy configuration dot builder minimum logging level, passing our worker factory and building it. So this is how our application knows when to start our worker. Okay, that's it. So yeah, again, this is boilerplate code, just write it, don't worry too much about it. Okay, so once this entire code is done, you will have to again go to Android manifest, and firstly you will have to make sure you add this Android color name, whatever is your application class name. So my application class name was just my application. That's what I'm writing over here. Then I have created this provider tag as well, and the name is androidx.startup.initialization provider, and here is the authorities as well, application ID androidx.startup. Again, this is boilerplate code, even I don't understand it. It's basically like related to dependency injection of injecting our work manager to it. So again, just copy paste all this code which I have written, don't worry too much about it. Okay, once that is done, if I go to main activity, once at least the user needs to open our activity application once, so that we can tell our application that you need to start this particular work whenever the Android OS feels like. So first, these are all the imports. I haven't done anything inside the UI layout. We don't really, doesn't really matter. So these are all the imports. Firstly, you will have to mark your activity as @Android entry point. Then there are some the reason you don't need to mark this @ requires API, but if you see, this back off criteria is only available from Android O. If you don't want it, you can just remove this particular bit of code, that's fine as well. But I think most of the people have upgraded to Android O. That's why I'm just added this at the rate requires. Okay, inside on create, all I have done is that I have done a constraints. So I'm just doing that when the battery is not low and the storage should not be low, then only run this particular thing. It's highly recommended you add some constraints. Or if you are doing some API call inside your coroutine worker, then you also need the network, right? So you can add that as well. You can just do dot set, and here you can see it gives all this option. So you can select dot set network type or whatever suits your requirements. Okay, then here we just do periodic work request builder, passing our custom worker. Then repeat interval is 1, repeat interval time unit is time unit dot hours. Flex time interval I have kept it as 15 minutes, so work will be executed between 45 minutes to 1 hour, because this is 1 hour. Okay, and flex time interval unit is again here it is minutes. Then set back off criteria, and I'm not really sure what this means, but again I have just copy pasted this from documentation. So back off policy dot linear and duration is again 15 seconds. Then say I have assigned our constraints to it and just do dot build. Then we are doing work manager dot get instance, passing our application context. And then I'm so here we will be a new work will be ignored if name is same. So in case suppose uh, we started some work but the Android OS has not finished it, and then again some work came in queue, and even that is not finished, so new work will be ignored if name is same. So that's what I'm doing over here. So if you don't want it to be ignored, you can give it some different name or some random name, whatever you feel like. Then here we are just doing work manager dot enqueue unique periodic work, and this is our work name. Then the existing periodic work policy is dot keep, and this is the work request which I'm passing. So yeah, I think that should be it. Let me quickly check. I've shown you the Android manifest, I've shown you all these files as well, layout as well, yeah, values as well. So yeah, I think that should be it. In case if you face any issue, do let me know. So here is the final output. As you can see, I'm able to display time, whatever is the time. Now I had to wait for an hour to display this particular output, but in your case it could be anything. It might be 2 hours, it could be 15 minutes. It completely depends on the Android OS, so we can't really predict this. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.